You? Okay, you're good to go.
All right, welcome to the Shasta Regional Transportation Authority meeting for October 27th, 2022. And let's see, hold on, I'm on the wrong page. Can we have roll call, please, Amy?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see such a big crowd. We'll start roll with Chair Browning,
Here.
Board Member Commenti,
Here.
Board Member Garmin, Board Member Jones,
Here.
Board Member Mazzano,
Here.
Board Member Schrader. Here. And Board Member Watkins.
Present.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, if you'll please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Patrick Jones is going to lead us.
Join me in our pledge. I
pledge
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, move on to staff introductions.
Yeah, happy to do that, Chair Browning. Good afternoon, Board of Directors, Santijan, Executive Director here at CERTA. Online with us, we have Amy Lindsay, our Administrative Associate, Associate Planner, Michael Cooker, who's running our meeting for us. Our Chief Fiscal Officer, Jessica, is not here. She's actually at Carl. She is participating in the CaliCog, California Academy Regional Leaders Program. So she's enjoying a boat ride right now in the Port of Long Beach as she learns about freight and port activities. Here in the office, we have Senior Planners Jennifer Pollum and Keith Williams, and Associate Transportation Planners Mehdi Monadani, and then Kimi Taguchi. I don't think I missed anyone here. That's our introductions for today.
Excellent. All right, we'll move on to item number 4, public comment period. This time set aside for citizens to address the board on consent agenda items or matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the board. By law, the board cannot discuss or take action on matters not on the agenda, but may schedule an item for a future meeting. And we have one, John Hoblick.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
When were the public hearings of the regional transportation or the draft?
Thank you.
For the draft regional transportation plan?
Public hearings, were they, of the draft
meeting.
transportation plan,
So
RTP?
So the RTP is still in development stage right now is where we're at. We have issued a notice of preparation that we plan to prepare a regional transportation plan and sustainable community strategy, as well as the supplemental environmental impact report. Notice of preparation was to let everyone know in the public and all our member agencies that we're working to prepare the EIR, and it's the input on specifically the environmental process first and foremost in terms of a couple of questions that we had. We had a workshop that was earlier this week related to that. We will have public hearings related to the draft regional transportation plan at our next couple of board meetings in December and in February. So those will be the opportunities to have public hearings on those plans. And we also have public comment periods related to the regional transportation plan. So that will be up and coming here in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Thanks for being here. All right, we'll move on to item number 5. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion for these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time of the agency votes on the motion to approve. Do we have a motion to approve the?
Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I need to abstain from 5-4. I'm associated with an organization that will be applying for funds for housing. And they either have or will be applying for those funds that we,
Isn't that simply a letter, though?
I don't know. When I read it and I knew what they were doing or wanted to do, I said, I'm just going to pull myself off this. I like to go with the legal term of abundance of caution. I stay as far.
You're not even running for reelection, I think. Vote.
Trying to do the right thing here, that's all.
5-4 is
Not the,
It's that's the correspondence.
Yeah, it's a correspondence.
we're not,
Voting on,
we're not approving monies.
No.
No.
And
So I'm okay to vote on that,
yes.
Yes.
even though an organization I'm associated with is applying for those funds.
There's no action being taken for award of anything. So yeah, you would be, fine.
Okay.
It's just correspondence from
Only
the,
when it comes back to you at a later date.
Yeah.
Okay, which I won't be sitting here when it comes back.
I understand.
I will make the motion to
Okay,
approve.
then and I'll second that. I'm comfortable then.
All right.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
I-
Opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. All right, and we will move on to regular calendar, item number
Hold on,
6.
we need roll call vote on that.
Well, do we need it?
Yeah, we do. Thank you, everybody. Just to be sure, we had a first by Mazzano and a second by Commenti.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and so we'll do a quick roll call vote. Chair Browning,
Yes.
Board Member Commenti,
Yes.
Board Member Garmin,
I'll abstain.
Wasn't here for that.
and Board Member Jones,
Yes.
Board Member Mazzano,
Yes.
Board Member Schrader,
Yes,
and Board Member Watkins.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, now we'll move on to the regular calendar, item number 6, the executive director's report. John?
Michael, can you put a slide up for me?
Yes, sir. 1 second.
Thank you, Michael. Just two quick items here for the board of note. One is that the California Association of Councils of Governments, or CalCog as we call it, is scheduled their next California Regions Leadership Forum. It's scheduled for March in 2023, 5th through 7th. Normally it has been in Monterey to be a little bit more central in the state. This next upcoming one will be in Riverside. It's been about 3 years since they've had the in-person meetings for the regional forum. Over the days, it's an opportunity for elected board members of regional agencies, as well as their directors and select staff, to get together to discuss the role of regional agencies, to receive training, to do networking, and also have some discussions on relevant topics in the state of California about where California is headed, what is being seen moving forward, and how do we plan for the future to help all of our local agencies as a regional agency. The theme of that next leadership forum is called State of Change, and talk about how things are changing in California and how we can situate ourselves to be able to be ready for that and help support our regions. So I just share that with you to know, because our next couple of meetings are going to be real close to that. They have opened up the opportunity for registration. So if anyone may be interested, that may be here on the board next year, let me know. So I could get a sense of maybe whether to hold 1 or 2 spots for future board members if you're interested, because of the timing of that forum compared to the February meeting that we'll have. So I just wanted to let you folks know that that was taking place. We've sent a number of members in the past. It's very helpful, especially for new members that come onto the board, as well as for members that have been a part of it, and especially for those that might sit on the CalCog Board of Directors as well, too, as they usually have a chance to meet in person and talk with the board of elected officials that make up CalCog.
What was the date?
It's March 5th through 7th of next year. And I'll be sending out some additional information from Bill Higgins, Director of CalCog, in coming weeks. Just the only other item, thank you, Michael, I have real quick, as you've probably heard, rumors about the ATP Cycle 6 projects being announced. They're very tentative announcements that we have right now. 2 of our 4 projects have been tentatively recommended. There are still some things that need to be finished to determine if that's the case, and it could change. So we may receive somewhere near $18 million worth of projects. We'll have more information though at the December Board of Directors meeting, including follow-up and next steps related to those projects. So just want to let you know, signs look good. We'll at least maybe get 2 of the 4 projects that we submitted, but there'll be more to come. So that's just all I have for now.
when do you think you'll have more of a firm answer?
Roughly about 2 weeks before December board meeting is when the CTC will hear a vote and receive final recommendations. So a number of projects are going through a vetting process as well as providing additional information. We have that with one of the projects that were submitted. Additional information was requested. So there's no guarantee that those projects are funded at this point. So we'll talk more about that in December and how that plays out. Some of the other categories, some agencies that haven't received award for a whole category of what they called quick build projects. There were none that were awarded in that program. That a lot of work went into agencies to put together projects for that. So there may be some discussion at the state level about whether the state would relook at awarding some funds to that category or not. So more to come. We'll have an update and affirmative of what projects were funded, how much funding, and what does that mean for match for CERTA at the December board meeting. That's all I have for today's director's report.
Awesome. Any questions? No? Awesome. All right, we're gonna move to item number 7. Anybody, CERTA board members report on attendance at conferences, meetings, reimbursed at CERTA's expense. Anybody? Nope. Awesome. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, review and approve updated 2022 regional transportation plan and goals.
Thank you. Melissa, do you want to come in? We have somebody waiting out there. Thank you, Chair Browning, and welcome to the meeting today, to members of the public and partners. Today I'm presenting on the Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy. Next slide. The Regional Transportation Plan is a long-range planning document that CERTA develops. It has a 20-year planning horizon, and it covers all modes of transportation for the Shasta region. The planning document guides our transportation programming documents. So our programming documents are the Federal Transportation Improvement Program, FTIP, the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, RTIP, and even what the staff does on day-to-day activities in the overall work program, OWP. Today, what we're discussing is what's highlighted there, the region's transportation goals. Come on in. I'm also serving as a greeter. So.
Extra tip for you.
What's that?
Extra tip for you.
Great. So we're gonna go over the goals today. I do want you to know that this is a combined document. It is our regional transportation plan and our sustainable community strategy. The sustainable community strategy is a requirement of Senate Bill 375, and it is how we demonstrate that we will be reducing greenhouse gas emissions with integrated land use, housing, and transportation planning. Next slide, please. The staff recommendation is to review and approve the updated 2022 Regional Transportation Plan goals. They're attached to your staff reports. And we'll go through them next. If you can go to the next slide, please. Thanks, Michael. These goals, draft goals were presented to the Board of Directors at the June meeting. And after receiving comment back from the board, we updated the goals. So what you see before you today is are the updated goals. We added 4 that were carried forward from the 2018 Regional Transportation Plan. We reworded a couple of them based on comments, and we also combined a couple of them. So these are the goals that we are proposing for approval today. And before we move on to the recommendation, I would like to go over what the Regional Transportation Plan schedule is. If you can go to the next slide, please. We are today at the board meeting to again approve the goals. We do have we're receiving comments right now on the scope of the supplemental environmental impact reports. And we'll receive comments until the 19th. That's supposed to be 9th, isn't it?
9th.
Yeah, 9th. Please excuse me on that. We will have a public workshop. Right now it's tentatively scheduled for December 7th to introduce the RTP and SCS to the public and any interested parties. At in advance of the December board meeting, we'll release the draft RTP SCS, Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy, and the draft supplemental environmental impact report. Then we'll have a public hearing at the December 15th Board of Directors meeting. There's the comment session will still be open for both documents. That will end, and we'll incorporate comments, and we'll present at the February 23rd Board of Directors meeting what we would recommend for approval. We will be certifying the impact, environmental impact report and recommend adoption of the RTP SCS. After that, we send it over to the California Air Resources Board for them to review for SB 375 requirements. Next slide, please.
Can I add a question on that slide?
Can you go back one, back to the schedule, please, Michael? Thank you.
So November 9th for the comments,
And that's just on the scope,
right, okay.
not the
I
actual.
want to do, the tentative date for the public workshop is scheduled for December 7th. Where will that take place?
We will definitely have it hosted online. We found that we've gotten better participation online. And it will likely, we haven't decided that yet. We could probably have it at a larger venue if we can get a room at the City of Redding's City Hall, or we could have it here.
Okay.
Where can somebody find the public schedule?
If you'll go to the next slide, please. See, we actually, so we do have there's a PowerPoint right now, because we did have a scoping meeting for the environmental impact report. So it's part of that PowerPoint, but I was gonna put what I just showed you as a picture on that website there, which is part of the CERTA website, and it's 2022 RTP, end of it. So off of the CERTA's website, this is for everybody listening, you can find regional transportation plans. We have many of them because we've done them for a long time. And there is a page holding location for the 2022 RTP. We are doing in-depth outreach for the project as required by federal and state law. And part of that is to consult with our fellow government agencies, tribal governments, the public, any interested parties that have an interest in transportation. Again, any documents and direction is going to be available on our website. Again, the public workshop that we will have in advance of the first hearing. We'll have 2 public hearings, and there is a 55-day required comment period for the Sustainable Community Strategy, which basically is covered from December 12th for 55 days.
Just for clarification, so when you go on your website, it's actually in the toolbar on the left where you have it. So it's not listed under meetings and agendas. It's under a toolbar.
Oh, okay, you're talking about the schedule for the
Or just,
RTP.
or the RTP.
We can get it onto the slide that's in the carousel slide that's on the top.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
just
get
saying
it so
it's,
front and center.
somebody's looking for it under meetings and it doesn't seem to be there. It seems to be on a different.
Some of the different items, until we get closer to the date, we don't actually post straight directly on the events section of the.
That's fine. I just want to have that conversation so that people, when I was first looking, I was looking in the wrong spot.
Gotcha. Okay.
I just having the same kind of,
Yeah, we'll provide a couple of notices, so it's more front and center on the webpage, so people can easily click that and then go right to that.
I hear what you're saying about,
Information.
sorry to interrupt you, the meetings and agendas where you're looking at on the website. We could see if we could add workshops to that. That is more for our TAC meetings, SS TAC meetings and Board of Directors meetings, but we could add it to that.
some people have,
Yeah, for the way that the website is structured.
Yeah. Thank you.
Next slide. This, I did want to provide this information. You can provide comments to me at our address here and also to the email address certa@certa.ca.gov. That way we can track them all easily. And if you need further information, you can go to the website, the RTP specific page, or call our main line. Last slide, please. Back to recommendation. We're requesting review and approval of the updated 2022 RTP goals.
Well, I'll start with thank you. I read through it and I appreciate all the add-ons that you did based on the June comments from the board. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening to us and putting those into our recommendations.
Yeah, we felt that it was important with the breadth of the discussion that we had and everything to kind of bring this back in, give you all another chance before we go out and finish developing the strategies and the other elements of the RTP and SCS, that we can go through those and make sure you guys are comfortable with it before we move forward. So
I think it reads more in our way of life here than prior. So I do appreciate that. Any other comments?
Jen, when we're talking about the whole plan, does vehicles miles travel, is it one of the goals that fits into here?
Vehicle miles traveled is not, we had that in the past, I think, so you might be thinking of that. But basically, we've added that to the performance, not that, but the idea of the greenhouse gas emission reductions to the performance part.
So the greenhouse gas reduction would come as a result of fewer vehicle miles traveled?
Or transitioning to zero emission vehicles or.
Yeah.
Several.
There's a lot of categories, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of categories. So the vehicle miles traveled does fit into several categories from a performance standpoint, as well as you may recall from a local agency standpoint, there's Senate Bill 743, which changed the California Environmental Quality Act review of projects when you look at the transportation element. That now requires you to quantify vehicle miles traveled by capita for any type of a project that's subject to CEQA review. One of the things as a regional agency we're asked to do as part of that process, and our agencies have asked for help on the technical side, is to provide a rough average based upon different high-level regional land use residential types, as well as, and we'll get into this much, more detail in the RTP draft, and as well as in job types such as commercial, industrial, retail. We provide regional number, we will be providing regional numbers about those, but we're not setting any new targets. We're just providing that for context. And it's up to local agencies under CEQA to determine what will be their thresholds of significance for various projects. So we do have to report that.
So later on, Eric Orr is going to be giving us a presentation on what Caltrans is doing. And so do some of our goals fit directly with what Caltrans is proposing then?
Correct.
These goals are developed based on the guidance that we get from state and feds.
Okay.
They would have correct. Or similar goals. Any other questions?
No.
No. Okay.
Staff
Good job.
recommendation.
Yep.
I'd allow for public comment, just in case.
Sure. Do
Anyone?
we have anybody for public comment? Yes, sir. Don?
I'm kind of really confused about the release of the draft. When is that going to be for public? To be studied over?
Tentatively, it's the December 12th,
December 12th, so it'll be on your website on December
and
12th.
we push it out.
Okay.
And if you'd like to have direct notification, if you can, after the meeting, provide your contact info, like an email, we can include you to a list when the information goes out, so you get a direct notification of when that plan's available for review.
Good for him.
Okay, December 12th.
Well, it's asking us to approve. Do we need to recommend a
Yes.
motion? I'll make a motion to approve the updated 2022 regional transportation goals.
I'll second.
Amy, are you on there?
Oh, we lost Amy.
No, I'm here. Okay, so we have a first by Kristen and a second by Mark.
Yes. Yes.
Great.
All in favor, say aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, that's right. We don't do that.
Roll call vote.
You'll figure it out.
Find out if we need to next time.
Yeah, roll call vote. Chair Browning,
Yes.
Board Member Commenti,
Yes.
Board Member Garmin,
Yes.
Board Member Jones,
Yes.
Board Member Mazzano,
Yes.
Board Member Schrader,
Yes?
and Board Member Watkins.
Yes.
Great, thank you, everyone.
All right, we're going to move on to item number 9, receive an update on regional early action planning, REAP 2.0 program.
Thank you, Chair Browning. Yeah, I have Mehdi, he's going to come up and present about the Regional Early Action Program funds. You may be familiar with this from the county level. A couple of years ago in 2019 was the first time of funds that were made available to the region from the state of California. Since then, that process has been completely redirected towards regional agencies. So this is our first time dealing with this program and developing a process for projects. So Mehdi is going to give an overview and kind of let you know where we're at with next steps. So Mehdi?
Thank you. This slide. Okay, thank you. Item number 9, receive update on regional early action planning or REAP 2 program. Next slide, please. The California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, issued a notice of funding availability for Regional Early Action Planning Program, or REAP2 program. And 510 million is being directly allocated for MPOs based on projected 2030 population. And SARTA can apply up to 2,243,909. And SARTA will use 5% of this amount. That will be around 112,195 for the administration purposes. Next slide, please. REAP2 builds on REAP1 that provided 125 million for regional governments to accelerate housing production. But REAP2 expands the focus by integrating housing and climate goals and allowing for a broader planning and implementation investments, including transportation. Next slide, please. So the REAP2 objectives include infill development, housing for all incomes, vehicle miles travel reduction, and increasing transit ridership. Next, please. The only eligible applicants are MPOs and councils of governments, but MPOs and councils of governments can use eligible entities for the purpose of sub-allocations, and these eligible entities for the purpose of sub-allocations are counties, cities, tribal entities, academic institutions, and so on. Next slide. The eligible uses include but are not limited to accelerating infill development, for example, planning or implementation activities that facilitate housing supply, choice, and affordability, realizing multimodal communities, for example, implementing projects in bicycle or pedestrian plans, shifting travel behavior, for example, establishing local or regional VMT mitigation bank, and increasing transit ridership, for example, providing on-demand transportation services. Next slide, please. SARTA started the required outreach activities on September 28 and issued a call for project on October 18. And we will present a list of recommended projects for approval at the December board meeting. And the approved projects must be submitted to HCD by December 31st. And for the purpose of HCD review and scheduling the required agreements, the earliest starting date for the approved project will be 1st of March 2023. And all funds must be awarded by June 30, 2024 and spent by March 31st, 2026. Next slide. Thank you very much. And please let me know your questions and comments.
Just seems like a very low number. Like, for all the things that they've scoped into what they're going to allow you to do, we're eligible for $2.2 million. I mean, just to expand our sewer system from one side of Anderson to the housing development that's needed, which we're gonna have to do at some point, is almost 9 million. So.
So would a sewer extension qualify under this for infill projects for housing?
Yes.
Yes,
Potentially, yes.
but it doesn't even cover.
Yeah, on that, and that's a lot of the smaller regional agencies have already brought that up, that says, hey, this is a very small amount of funds to work with, for different projects. The way we kind of see it is we'll probably be someone will be looking to leverage the funds for a project that they're working on. So adding these types of REAP funds to other funding they have for a project. And that's where we see right now in terms of fund. We're hoping to make a case that if there are future funding cycles of the program that's provided, that the smaller regions can get a bigger portion of the pie, or that additional funds are allocated towards the program. But yes, we have heard back from all of our partner agencies about the challenge of the amount of funds made available and how to make use of it. Unfortunately, the maximum available to us is what's the state's
I
provide.
understand. I just,
So, but yeah,
wasn't a bang on you.
great, no.
Imagination. I'm just saying that.
We saw, we were like, oh, this is gonna be tough. But we're optimistic about those that are interested in the program, that we've heard back from so far. So we anticipate we may see a few applications, so.
So have you received have you received requests
So we.
for this funding?
Not yet. So the application period is still open right now, with the schedule that Medi provided. And, we had a number of conversations with both private developers as well as our city and county partners in different departments on different project ideas, questions to follow up.
And nobody's formally requested yet.
Not yet. Nope.
So have any of the cities come forward with saying, hey, we have some ideas that they've presented to you? Like has Chuck Auckland come forward and said, hey, I could spend all of this on such and such?
The city's got some ideas, so we'll definitely be submitting.
So we did have some early consultation from different departments as ideas, what was eligible, what wasn't. We also had some even from the city of Chester Lake staff about, hey, do you think this would be eligible? We have run up some ideas to our HCD contacts so we could get a sense of how does HCD see this program? So we can get a sense of, do we think these different projects will meet the requirements and be favorably looked at from different agencies? So we've done that on behalf of the partners as well. And so now we're waiting to see what applications come in, and then we'll be reviewing those and providing a recommendation in December.
So it's up to this board to determine the prioritization of the projects that come before this board.
Correct.
And does HCD also have to approve how it's expended?
Correct.
So that's why when you just said you talk with HCD to find out what their thoughts are or how they're going to prioritize. So do they have a formal way of sharing with us what they think are priorities?
So they gave us the guidelines that were provided as well as an application. So we have our own application that we have to submit on behalf of the entire region. What we did is we said, okay, we're gonna take and condense that and take all of the regional information, other stuff out of it, and essentially repackage that as part of the application for the projects. That way it makes it much simpler for us to know, okay, these are requirements we're being asked to provide. So for every project that we receive, we'll receive that same information. So trying to stay consistent.
Apples to apples.
Correct, exactly. So that way, at least, then we'll have at least a group of projects that fit all those categories. We can then review those to see how well we think competitively they will appeal to the region prioritization. The board will decide what those final projects will be in the funding. But then, yes, we then on behalf of the entire region submit all those approved projects by this board. And we then submit that to HCD for their review. It's similar to the State Good Repair Program as well as the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program where, and this is a trend we are seeing happening, agencies say, here's a program and a pot of money available to you. You submit us project ideas and then we'll review those to see if we agree that those projects meet the goals of that program. And if so, we will then approve your projects that your board has selected. And so this is similar to those programs.
Okay, so can you remind me what 2019 REAP funds was used for?
I'd have to actually consult with the county. The Shasta County Planning Department oversaw that program. I think there might have been a couple of there might have been a sewer project. There were a couple other projects provided different jurisdictions. I don't know, Steve,
I can't, I don't.
recall?
Well, that's fine, but you also said that they've kind of changed and expanded
The program.
the program, the eligibility, the thought, looks like they're trying to, which we approve. I mean, I think I appreciate that they are expanding the co-planning, the planning of housing and transportation together. Rather than, I think previously it was more directed towards housing and now it includes more of a combination of housing and transportation. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, I think it's fine. I mean, it's like, we know what the timeline is. We just need to get our ducks in order and get it to them by December 31st.
And you can do that, right?
That's the plan.
All right.
We're doing. We'll be busy right after the 15th of December.
Can I give you a timeline on when they're gonna be able to respond to let this sort of know when the,
We're estimating somewhere between, maybe by the end of January is what we're hoping based upon how it is. We do have, they have designated staff for different regions of the state for coordination and review of projects. And we've been in communication, so we hopefully hope that goes well. They have been a little slow at that department because they've been working some other housing needs and plan updates or something. But we anticipate at the very latest, by the end of February, we will know. Hopefully what will happen is we will know before the February board meeting for CERTA. That way then we can then execute contracts with the different agencies to sub-allocate funds is what our goal is. If not, we may have to wait until March, depending on that process, or our April board meeting, depending on the process.
Sean, so the way I understand it, with only 2.2 million, you expect we might have more projects proposed than what we have funds for.
That appears that will be the case based upon the conversation. So
You, staff would rate these projects as to which ones would be most successful going forward to the state. And then our board would approve that list that you're going forward with. Is that
correct. And that process will determine projects that we will approve for our application to the state as well as those projects that will not be approved. Correct.
we're gonna do that on December 1st.
The board meeting on December 15th,
Oh,
our December board meeting.
huh? I don't know, I thought the future meeting schedule said December 1st.
No.
It's the 15th.
I think it is.
Yeah, you're right. I missed the one. I missed the 5.
Okay. We just got an update. Appreciate it.
Sean, one of the things said here, the board may provide comments about the types of projects they'd like to see prioritized. We didn't discuss that.
Yes, that is true. If there's any thoughts that you have in terms of, I mean, part of it will depend on the projects that we get, but if you do have any thoughts, we'd be happy to hear that.
Well, if we're really developing towards infill, I think things like getting utilities to the different areas in the cities that might not have them ready would be projects that would qualify. Would you agree or?
Based upon the guidelines that are provided, yes, as long as they make also connections to the 4 objectives. So in the application, the objectives are reducing VMT, infill development, supporting public transit use. Those are the things that those projects have to support because our application has to include how our list of projects.
Okay, so all 4 of those then?
All 4 objectives. Correct.
Okay.
Yep. That's something we had lots of questions with our partners on, as well as prospective applicants to help clarify that process for us.
I don't think we should prioritize the type. We should just wait and see what comes and rate them.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Any others? No? All right, perfect. We're gonna move on to number 10, consider and approve reallocation of unused fiscal year 2019-20, 2021 state of good repair funds to new projects.
Good afternoon again. Kimmy's gonna talk about the State of Good Repair Program. She's been into the weeds of this, and so I'll just hand it over to her to present.
Hello. Reading Area Bus Authority, RABA, requests that SCRTA approve the reallocation of previously awarded State of Good Repair or SGR funds in the amount of $127,277.60 to new RABA projects for fiscal year 2022-23. The State of Good Repair program is administered by Caltrans for the purpose of funding transit-related capital, transit-related rehabilitation, and transit-related maintenance projects for keeping this transit system in what they call a state of good repair. It's
You said 127, it's really 121, right?
120.
27.
70,000.
I'm looking right here though.
Well, there's probably a typo.
So if you go to the second page, down at the bottom, it says proposed projects for reallocation. And if you have at the bottom, the total is 121,277.62.
Table 2, thank you.
Sorry, that's why I was asking when I was reading it the other day. The front and the back don't match.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh, good. 121, 277.62.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so it is important. So,
I saw that, but.
okay, thank you for catching that. So it is important to note that these regional SGR funds or State of Good Repair funds are provided for CERTA for oversight. And if regional priorities change, the CERTA Board of Directors may modify project lists for submittal to Caltrans. So in Table 1, lists RABA projects that were previously awarded regional State of Good Repair funds. Table 2 shows State of Good Repair funded projects RABA wishes to close for the purpose of reallocating 121,277 to new projects. The projects they wish to close is 1, security cameras at the RABA Dispatch Maintenance Facility and Downtown Transit Center. 2, maintenance facility storm drainage revisions. 3, electronic fare box systems for Bernie Express. 4, real-time bus arrival clock system. The remaining funds total 121,277, and they wish to reallocate that to the projects listed in Table 3. Those 2 projects that are new, RABA bus stop signs and the RABA equipment for buses and maintenance facility. Staff recommends that the Board of Directors approve Resolution 22-11 to approve the reallocation of prior good repair funds into new 23 projects. For fiscal impact, the adoption of this resolution has 0 net impact to CERTA. This action would close the previously funded SGR RABA projects and reallocate those funds to the 2 new projects, which is again, the bus stop signs and the equipment for buses and maintenance facility. Some alternatives is that the Board of Directors may deny proposed reallocation. They may modify the amounts requested, or they may allocate funds to other approved projects consistent with 22-23 State of Good Repair guidelines and CERTA State of Good Repair policies.
Any questions?
I make a motion that we approve recommendation.
I will second the motion.
Comment.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So I was just curious here, you're putting up 375 new signs. Are these brighter, better looking, or why are we changing? What did the old ones look out? What are we putting up? I've always liked signing, and I hate to see us put up anything that isn't a vast improvement.
I will hand that question over to Raba, either to Steve or to Melissa.
So yeah, I mean, we have, and then just so you know, this, I guess a good time to say, Steve Beatty is gonna be the new executive officer that, we have Melissa Estrada, she's our transportation planner, and I'm kind of moving out of RABA a little bit, but I guess to answer your question is we have a new transit app out there and we're getting real-time information. And so the signs, if you have noticed, have been, are pretty old. They've been in place for since the 90s, really, that type and style. And so you'll see a little more streamlined look, better looking. I think they're going to have QR codes on it so people can put their cell phones on it and have the right information, give them a little more information in terms of where they are and when the next bus might arrive, and provide just a better aesthetic to the overall locations.
So by taking their phone and photographing that, it will actually show them when that bus is arriving next?
Yeah, it'll get them to an application site that will show that information. Yeah.
I think something like that is an excellent addition and improvement, and you ought to give credit for that, and not just have to drag it out of you.
Yeah, I give credit to the chief architect.
And I'll just follow up, it's not a QRC code, but it is a phone number for persons with non-smartphones to either call in or text in. And then either by text or by voice, they could input the bus stop number, which will be again present on the sign, and they'll get either a voice response or a text response of the next bus arrival time.
I think people would really like to see that and to know that, so that's a good improvement. I would love to have seen a sample of that sign.
We can get it to you.
You can email it to us?
Yes.
If you'll email it to Sean, he can email it to all of us.
I will do that.
I did like the QR code thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't answer
Because,
about that.
yeah,
Can we
because
do that?
then, hold on, I'm helping you here. Then I can go right to there, right? And it can give me real time when that bus is going to be there and an option to go ahead and buy my ticket.
So,
But
go ahead.
So we do, our current vendor for real-time, the provision of real-time information system is Swiftly. So there's 3 methods that they provide the information. On the RAPA website, there's a desktop map where you can get your route information. And it shows you the real-time location of your bus route as well as time. The second option is a transit app. The company's called Transit, and it's an app. So they consume all of this free information. So basically, we have trackers on the bus that the GPS coordinates are mixed with a static schedule, and it pushes out GTFS real-time feed. And that's kind of the industry standard. And so you get all these tech companies that are developing apps just consuming all this free information. So this particular vendor provides these services for free. So it's at no cost to RABA. So again, that's the app that is available for persons with smartphone. And again, what we're promoting at the bus stop signs is for those non-smartphone users, that third option of accessibility.
yeah, but if I walk in, I get the QR code, it's gonna take me right to that site and I can just add it.
Well, on
I'm just saying.
But the app does.
I'm just trying to make my life easy.
Download the app though, and it'll know where you are, and it'll know, and there's a bus stop number on that, and so you will know, the app will know where you are, and it'll tell you when the next bus will be.
Okay.
So that function is there, it's just not in a QR.
I'm old though, I can't even find the app.
I apologize.
The last time you took the bus?
Oh, there's a good point.
Just ask.
For a friend.
Chuck, what does our ridership look like right now?
The ridership is, so I guess if you look at, so pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, we were getting about on the fixed route, we would get about 2,500 rides a day during the weekday. Post-pandemic though, that is down in the 1,600. So we haven't quite recovered from that. It went a little bit lower than that. We've come up some, but it's definitely down. And then Saturdays we're typically in the 1,200 to 1,500 a day, and those I think are more closer to the, I don't know that number off the top of my head. I think it's more maybe 900,000.
So what's your box fire ratio then?
It is really low. It's I think last year it was less than 10%.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the state has provided some relief from fare box ratio requirements due to the pandemic, but we are in the middle, have kicked off our short range transit plan, and it's kind of looking at the system in general, how we operate, where we go, how we, who's using it, and this is our opportunity to kind of take a good hard look at the system and how we might adapt moving forward.
We were just having this conversation today earlier in a different meeting I was in about really on demand. What does that look like? Is that the direction that that we need to go? Does that make a difference? And does that get your ridership up?
Yeah, I think there are challenges with both. I mean,
I know you can't do it on every route, and I'm not saying you should. I'm saying when it's studied, what's your most used, right? And you continue using buses on your most used, bigger use areas, and then streamlining the rest really on demand sort of way.
yeah, and that's kind of what this study is to do. And just so you're aware, obviously, like I tell our council member all the time in terms of our infrastructure, we're 60 square miles. We have that many more pipes in the ground, that many more, much more police and fire service, that many more roads. Same thing with our transit system. It's a big system. We're going up into Anderson and Shasta Lake, and so we've got a lot of place to cover. And it's not like all of our more disadvantaged or lower income areas or people that would ride this vehicle are, in these one locations. They're spread out to all kinds of different locations, east, west, side of the mountain. So we have to try to figure out how to efficiently, fairly, and consistently meet their needs. And it's kind of easy to come back and say, well, let's just get pick up where they need to on demand, but you still have to have that vehicle ready. You have to have that vehicle in and around the area. So you're still expending those hours just like a fixed route would be. So there's a lot of different things that we're going to be looking at, whether it's tightening the system down, being more more service in a smaller area and then less to some of the periphery, but then, that might exclude certain areas that are disadvantaged populations or things like that. So it's really going to take a comprehensive look to figure out how to.
And I'm not banging on you at all.
No, I
Any stretch of imagination. I just think when you get, down to 10%, honestly, you can give everybody an Uber pass for free and save money. The amount of money we're spending. And I'm not, again, I'm just saying, when you look at the bigger scope and people the way we are today, you want that, I want to go and I want to go in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's definitely a system that is for the person that needs the ride. I mean, it's not a choice system in this area, but there are a lot of folks that don't have a vehicle and don't have any other choice, and they have to get to medical appointments.
Sure.
Get food and entertainment and all those types of things, and they have no other choice but this system.
Agreed.
Hey, as long as we're going into all these details on Rabbi, I see you're spending 96,000 for new cameras there in the yard. Have we had vandalism problems, and are you doing something different with these cameras that won't just say who did it?
Well, nothing different. We just upgrading the cameras themselves, the servers that go with them. But we do have
For better
vandalism problems.
quality photos and stuff? Seems like they ought to have some alarms that go off, say, hey, we see you, get away from here.
I don't see any reason why you can't just tap into the federal government. That way you know who they are as soon as their face pops in there.
Yeah, maybe phone tracking to see who was there.
Chuck, with regards to pre and post pandemic and ridership down, how does that mirror towards regular vehicles? Do we see the same trend pre and post pandemic?
Not near as significant, I think, but what we have seen actually really even since prior to the last recession is that, our traffic volume numbers, at least in Reading, and I don't know in Anderson and Shasta Lake, but they're down even pre 2008 numbers. We have less vehicles on the road. A lot of our average daily traffic numbers are lower than they were back then. And so it really kind of makes it, we're in the middle, the city is in the middle of updating our general plan and looking at sort of the future. And so it's kind of interesting to how we're predicting volumes on roadways and what we need, how big the roads need to be. And so we're having some of those discussions right now about where the future of transport.
Are we going to get a refund for all those previous traffic models that we did that showed traffic increasing?
No, but we're redoing some studies that are showing that, hey, for example, our Stillwater Business Park, where we had planned that we thought that was going to need to be a 4-lane or actually 5-lane roadway going through that corridor of Venture Parkway. But as we look at the what's going to be used out there and what predictions are for moving forward, we think we can buy with some smaller sections, which are obviously less to maintain in the future. And so we're trying to balance that need for long-term maintenance and infrastructure versus get people where they want to go quick enough.
And some of the long range planning, do we see growth in the future? What is the outlook, 10, 15 years down the road? What are you projecting?
Yeah, so what we typically use is, we use a company called Itron, and they look at past growth and they look at models going in the future, and we use those for, the city does, our utilities, so all the rate studies that we look at that in terms of growth. We do either look at population growth and obviously use census tract information and try to make reasonable assumptions as to what's going to happen in the next 20 years.
I mean, the census was a small increase over the last 10 years.
Yes.
And so that will get figured in as well.
Yeah, so pre-recession, like 2006, 7, we were estimating, 6, 7, 8% increases per year out, forever, and that was gonna be huge numbers. And obviously during the recession, we're getting, 0.6, percent growth a year. And so those numbers are now being tempered as to how we're looking forward.
$6 gallon gas changed it.
That could change some things.
Well, I think
It's gonna go down. Vehicle miles traveled is definitely gonna go down if we stay at $6 plus a gallon on gas.
Well, I think it's bigger than that too. I think a lot of companies, especially during COVID, figured out, hey, all of our employees can work from home now. And so they're actually not having to leave and drive to work back and forth every day. I think all of those things play a factor in it too, along with $6 a gallon.
But you're going to see some of that is changing, right? Is that now they're wanting people to get more back to work, with that trend might go. So it's definitely a dynamic, fluid situation that we try to, do the best we can to plan, but be realistic with some of the numbers.
Absolutely. All right, we'll call for the vote. And we need a first and a second.
No, you had a first and a second.
Did I?
Yeah, Christian and me.
Oh, that was a long time ago. Yeah, I forgot about that. All right, Amy, did you get the first and the second?
I did, thank you. We'll start the roll call vote with Chair Browning,
Yes.
Board Member Commenti,
Yes.
Board Member Garmin,
Yes.
Board Member Jones,
Yes.
Board Member Mazzano,
Yes.
Board Member Schrader,
Yes.
and Board Member Watkins.
See, are we still doing these alphabetically? Yes.
Yes, sir.
He feels last. Just so you know, Amy.
Front of the list for
He doesn't want to be last. All the time.
Quite the complex over that,
Right.
Greg.
I was helping you.
Everyone.
Can't help you.
What was that?
She's just saying thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Amy. All right, we're going to move on to 11. We're going to receive an update on Fix 5 Cascade Gateway Project.
Yeah, thanks to your in board. As I do a quick introduction, as Eric Orr, the Caltrans project manager, comes up. We last provided an update in the February board meeting on the Fix 5 Cascade Gateway project. Our approach to how we were going to tackle the challenges. How do we finish getting 3 lanes from Cottonwood to the north end of the city of Shasta Lake? How do I fix that gap and make that possible? Back then, when we talked about things, we talked about, doing managed lanes, including signage for out there, like what you see in the picture there, as well as in completing through lanes from I-5 44 interchange to Oasis Road, doing auxiliary lanes, and we even talked about doing electric vehicle freight charging in partnership with CHP in Cottonwood. Since the discussions in February, Eric and his team and sort of as well had a myriad of conversations with headquarters staff, both Caltrans headquarters as well as CTC staff, to figure out how we can get support for the project and how can we be competitive with the programs since we've been trying to apply. One of the clear messages we got was 2. One, if a project is capacity increasing from their view, or if it is inducing travel, forget about it. It's probably not going to be competitive from their perspective in terms of how do we make the argument. Even if you're talking about an area that is a bottleneck on an interstate highway and you're trying to fix that and everything else, there are certain ways of how different projects are viewed at the state headquarters level, even when we try to explain context for those projects. So we had to then think about how to get creative. And we've gotten creative both in terms of the design of the project as well as pursuing additional funding. So with that context, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Eric Orr to tell you what we've been working on.
My name's Eric Orr. I've worked for Caltrans for 35 years.
Congratulations.
Just two more months.
We will miss you.
And this is my last presentation, and I decided for my last presentation, I need to relate to the board somehow. And I'm going to start first. Chair Watkins, I wore my only snap button shirt today.
Oh, I approve.
I approve already. First.
Chair Browning and Commenti, there's other ways that we relate.
That's right. With that heavily. Yep.
So if you remember last presentation, we also talked about Razzle, and we could not do Razzle. That's the Reading to Anderson 6 lane, which we just finished. We couldn't do that without other funds. And the funds we mainly used were the SB1 funds, the gas taxes it's called. We got about 100 million of those funds from that. And we had a hard time finding funds before that. And then the gas tax came in and we were able to capture those funds, and then we were able to build the Razzle project. We're in the same position now with Fix 5 Cascade Gateway. By the way, this is a partnership project. It's not Caltrans, it's not just service, we're a partnership. And that's why you see the name Fix 5 Cascade Gateway. Fix 5, that's the Caltrans part. We're allowed to fix the highway. We shot funds for that. And the Cascade Gateway, that's the other part of the project, showing that we're a gateway to the Cascade and we're widening the highway as part of that. Notice I said widening though, right?
Right.
So you can see here, here's a sign that we have, and notice the fun word trucks only. We're going to talk a lot about that coming up. And by the way, this sign won't be here. This is just illustrative purposes only. So the next slide, please. Okay, so where have we been? Back in A4 2020, as you know, when we develop projects, first you have the environmental phase, then the design, right-of-way phase, and then the construction phase. So we finished the first part, the environmental phase in 2020, and then it was hurry up and wait, as they say in the military, because we couldn't start the next phase until 22. basically 2 years later. We actually did some other work in there, but technically we couldn't start the design phase until 22. But during that time, we were able to get the funds for the design phase through the TCEP program. That's a Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. We were able to get those funds that paid for most of the design phase. So we're all happy, hey, we can do this. At the same time, we still need to think about getting the construction funds. And that's where and oh, by the way, during that time, remember I talked about partnerships. Caltrans started their Cascade Shop project. We're going to combine that with the Fix 5 Cascade Gateway project for one project for construction. By the way, we did the same thing with the Razzle project. We combined for construction with shop money. And then coming up, August of 24, we call it our RTL rate list. We're going to be ready for our CTC vote to put the funds on the project, combine both projects for construction, and you'll see the work out there. Meanwhile, as we just spoke about, there's new requirements that came in that we couldn't add capacity to the project. Well, what do you do with the 6-lane project? You couldn't add capacity. And that's what the idea that came in, of putting in a truck-only lane. The TCE.
Now, why was that? What's the problem with having in rural Northern California a little capacity?
We had the same discussion as you. Why can't we do that? If you look at a large city and you put in another lane, you notice for a while there'll be the lane will be open, traffic can go on it, and everyone goes, hey, look, the freeway's open. I don't have to take the bus anymore. I don't have to take transit. I can get on the freeway. And then that's called induced demand. Then suddenly people will jump on the freeway. And if within a few years, you'll see the freeway clogged again. We do not have that situation here. We've talked about other reasons why we're doing the project. We don't have congestion problems, but we were losing those arguments with our headquarters people.
Mm-hmm.
They said, those arguments aren't gonna fly. You probably won't get funded.
So they think if we have an extra lane that people are not going to be riding the bus.
Right.
There is a bit of induced demand with an extra lane, but that's the models that they use. They, in my opinion, they work more for urban situations than for rural. But at this time, I don't think we could, remember, we're trying to get grants.
Right. But I mean, have they proved that in the cities, that have they proved that if they add another lane, that ridership on public transportation goes down?
I think they have, yes. And that's one of the reasons why there's a big pushback. When we talk about SB 743, why they don't want to have capacity improving projects anymore.
Yeah, if philosophically, a lot of departments of transportation at the state level, it looked at that concept and discussion of induced demand, and they apply it generally. Most studies are based upon urban areas, and they do support urban efforts. It's more challenging to get researchers and others to do more rural, small urban examples. And we run into this with when we had to do implementation at Senate Bill 375 and the greenhouse gas reductions, like barely any research to tell us that, what's an applicable standard or target for a rural area, and they're applying urban metrics across the board. So it's an ongoing thing. So far, we have not still been able to make the argument. When I was part of the California Academy of Regional Leaders program, my team actually tried to argue different approaches about induced travel and how you should look at it differently in urban rural areas. And even then in 2018, we hit roadblocks, and there were a lot of folks that really didn't agree with the argument that we would make on there. So it's kind of a industry viewpoint on that. And right now, there's a lot less support at the state level for any type of project.
That's logical, given the fact that the population in the urban areas, more people are being served by it versus up here, there's just a handful of us.
Yep.
So I could see that argument.
You've got really good arguments. We've used the same, but yeah.
It doesn't fit them.
Yeah, it's not necessarily going to change their minds.
No. I don't want to say narrative.
So how did you trick them?
Actually, it was a good idea.
Hey, Eric, is the director of Caltrans in Sacramento, is that a political appointee then almost today?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's where the problem comes from.
He can't, he can in 2 months, but he can't say that today.
From my viewpoint, that might be where the problem comes from.
The good news is we're applying for the TCEP
I have a
funds.
slide up.
And remember I said that's for freight? We have competing interests. One of Caltrans' goals is to get freight through. You saw the supply chain problems we had. So there's an interest to get freight moving in California, where they don't want them stuck in traffic jams. They want smoother operations. The freight grant you paid for the Razzle project, and the freight grant we're hoping is going to pay for this project too.
Awesome.
Okay,
Now, in your picture, you showed the truck in the left lane.
yeah, I'm going to get into that.
Okay.
So here we are right now, Monday, Halloween, the TCEP, the freight cycle 3 applications due, so we're going to talk about that. We're working right now to get that done, so hopefully we can get that. We're also looking for other funds. There's SB 198 for port applications, saying port. We're actually working with the Port of Humboldt Bay, because we look at Highway 299 as kind of like a long driveway. There. And maybe we can help that situation. Maybe we can get funds for this project with the port. So those applications are due in November. We're looking for about 15 million from them.
I should add to that, it's port and freight program. So again, we're tying to freight as well as benefits to Humboldt from that standpoint of some.
What's the total cost of the project again, roughly?
About 114 million, I think. I'll get to that in the next pages. The other grant we're looking for, and it's looking like we're gonna get it, is the community project funding grant, 3 million. That's an earmark out of LaMalfa's office.
Correct, yes. It's earmarked through LaMalfa's office and Feinstein through the federal earmarks for various different programs. We applied for under the transportation category, submitted a request for 10, and we got tentatively awarded for 3.
Okay. And we should know by December. at the
16th,
earliest. December
the
16th.
earliest.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because that's my anniversary and this is my birthday. This application is due on my wife's birthday, so there's some strange things here. Anyway, we'll find out. This date's not important to me. 28, we should find out if the CTC staff recommends our project. So this is going to be one of those interesting things where we're going to be designing ahead, but not knowing if we get the project funding for construction. But I also know that kind of like the baseball, if you build it, they will come. I think if we design it, there's going to be a big pressure to get money on this project. So we're going to continue down the staff. They paid us to design it, so we're going to design it. And then what if we don't get the cycle 3 funds? We can still make cycle 4 funds. The project will be more expensive because we'll have to delay it a year and we'll have to ask for more money, but that's another option. So let's get to the next slide. So what's the new scope? Remember we talked, you need to be more competitive, right? So we're going to talk about the truck only lanes. The other thing, we have advanced lane management system. We talked about this earlier and they said, well, we want more. But the advanced lane management system we're going to use with the truck only lanes, and the advanced lane management system is to handle closures of I-5, like when you see the snowstorms where they close I-5, we can notify trucks, cars, what's happening ahead, kind of get them in the right lanes, be able to use interchanges and not have everything just locked down like we've seen before. Yeah. So that should help. The other interesting thing is truck chargers. So we're putting truck chargers at the northbound Cottonwood Scales.
Southbound.
Northbound.
Northbound. We're also, by the way, if you didn't know, southbound is going out to bid here pretty soon, and we're going to improve the southbound side. So you're familiar with the northbound side. The southbound side is kind of like a shack. You'll be seeing a new project to make that probably half the size of the one on the northbound.
So then trucks will be having to stop going southbound?
They'll be stopped southbound, but the northbound the northbound side will have the chargers, not the southbound side.
Yeah.
Southbound side is kind
Well,
of
it's downhill from there.
in one sense, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, those are 350 kilowatt chargers that we'll have placed there, and they'll be open to the public, mainly for trucks, but the public can use them for their cars too until trucks really start getting used to them. So next slide. Okay, so we're talking about funds, right? So here we talked about the shop. That's about $32 million with the shop. And for the non-shop is 82 million. Okay, together combined, it's 114 million. If you look at just the construction amount, 68 million for the non-shop and 26 million for the shop. That's how we're partnering together. And remember, I talked about how we're also partnering together. Thank you, sir, because you were able to put 5 million in STIP money for this. It provides the match needed for the TCP. Notice the TCP, how much money we're asking. So far, they've given us 1.8 million for the design. We're asking for 70 million. So when you're asking for that amount, you want to give them a good application that they're pleased with. And we're hoping this will do it. We have different ways, I talked about important community project funding. So the next slide. What if we get the community project funding? And this is looking very likely we're going to get it. So with that, we'll lower the amount of TCP asked to 67 million. And we're going to ask for 23 million of regional. Before we were asking for 16. Now we can afford more with match because this could be matched to that. TCEP, by the way, wants to leverage their money. So when you ask for the money, they go, well, are you going to match? What are you going to provide? And that's where CERTA's come in to provide the 5 million and the 3 million. And then the last slide, or next slide, excuse me. Okay, and here we've added the port funds. So what if we get the port funds? Then you can see that our ask for the TCP would be 52 million
Now, would the port funds be used on I-5 or just 299?
on I-5.
When it connects.
Okay, so the next slide. This is what you want to see. Where is this truck only lane going to be on I-5? Okay, first of all, Fix 5 Cascade Gateway, you understand that's the last bit of a 4-lane section on I-5 between Cottonwood and City of Shasta Lake, right after Hilltop. It connects down to 2 lanes, and then right at Oasis Road, you have the nice 6-lane section. Okay, so we would be filling that gap with a 6-lane section. Okay, but now consider the new lane that we're building in that gap, a truck-only lane now. Okay, so put that in your mind. And not only that, but we're gonna have truck-only lanes, existing lanes that were general purpose. They'll be turned into truck-only lanes too, in both directions. And I'll show you where that is. And by the way, this is subject to change as we study this more. It could change, okay? So if you look here, you can see there's Highway 2, sorry if I can't show you here, Highway 299, Highway 44, and just past Hilltop, right before you get to 299, is where the northbound truck-only lane section starts. And that goes clear up to the City of Shasta Lake, the 151 overcrossing. And then southbound.
Now, why wouldn't it go on to Mount? Well, I see, it can't.
Yeah, that's where the 3 lanes.
Right, ends.
Shuts down.
Yeah.
In the same way, the southbound direction starts up there, goes clear down and ends right near Hartnell. Could be Loma Vista, could be Smith Road, okay? We have to think about that. Whenever you have trucks, and we have Board Lozano here, he's a CHP, they have to move over. We got to give them time to move over. Right now, we have them moving over just past the Cypress interchange so that by the time they get to Hartnell, they can do that. I think we may move some. So like I said, it could be Loma Vista. It could be clear down there to Smith Road. We have advanced warning signs, letting traffic know this is happening. And looking at studies, we've seen the merging time is usually about 2,000 feet for traffic to do that. So we have basically 4,000 feet from the signs to letting trucks know this is where the lane starts. And we've left it dashed striping for trucks so they don't have to stay in the lane. There's a lot of discussions we had. Should they stay in the lane and just be through trucks only? And we figured that at this point, the trucks may just get out anyway because they need to use 299. They need to use 44. So we're leaving it dashed at this point.
The entire thing dashed or just a segment dashed?
Yeah, entire thing dashed.
What's the legal, what legal issues are there with such, if a standard passenger vehicle is there, what?
Make that regulatory with a black and white sign, trucks only. People in that lane with cars are gonna get tickets.
I mean, it would
That's what's
take it
gonna
over the
happen.
fence.
Yep, it'd be a ticketable if it's a black and white sign.
But that wouldn't be with a black and white sign. That would be with an overhead changeable sign. Is that correct?
The overhead changeable sign would be black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's where the message comes from.
Right.
The changeable one.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's black and white, it's still regulatory. You're gonna get a ticket. And if
And
there's no
that's-
trucks in that lane and the other lanes are clogged, people are gonna jump in that truck lane. They'll get a ticket. I mean, it's an easy ticket.
We're calling this a pilot project, okay? And it hasn't been done, we've looked and no other state has done this where we've put trucks in kind of like a carpool lane over the side. There's good
And
advantages.
it is
with
the left lane,
the far left lane, next to the median,
which is not normal.
which is not normal.
Yeah, boy.
Now, Eric,
For sure, boy.
they get up to Shasta Dam Boulevard. Is there a way that they can say, okay, I'm going to go back to town and make a U-turn and come back on the southbound lane so they're not just stopped there?
Yeah, yes, they can use any interchange to go whatever direction they can.
So they would have to then get 2 lanes over to the right to make the off ramp to go south.
They have to, just like any trucker, would say, I need to start moving over to these lanes. It's not trucks, the other lanes aren't precluding trucks.
Right.
The leftmost lane is for the trucks only. And so the trucks can use 299, Cypress 44, 151.
So now you're doing this because that is the new lane. That's how that's how it's discussed. I mean,
yes.
So you couldn't put them in the normal right-hand side and say that's the new truck lane. Would that not satisfy? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's what the spirit of what they were looking for in
So
Sacramento.
the new lane that we're creating is off to the left.
Right, and that's.
Median.
That's the new median lane. The third lane, 1, 2, 3, depending from left to right, that would be the truck only.
You know, I'd be curious to see the accident statistics on the number of crashes involving a truck making a lane change from the number 1 lane when it's dashed and he's going to move over because that lane is ending for him. I think that number is higher, based on my experience, than a truck moving left.
And what we're trying to do, for example, up here with the Shasta Lake, when it goes down to 2, then there'd be only 1 lane that they would have to move to. And then down here, south of town, we're trying to say, well, the traffic's less there and they have more time to do it. So like I said, we're trying to find a good spot for that to happen. If this really works, we could maybe go down to Cottonwood.
Wouldn't it be possible at the same time, you got these overhead signs, the first and the second lane could have a greatly reduced speed limit flashing 45-mile-an-hour max in these 2 lanes just to make it safer?
We are going to have variable speed limit signs as part of this. And during events usually. So we could discuss speed limits. That's not part of, at this point, to have the other lanes, different speeds, than normal.
But it'd be possible to do.
That said, you may want to expand this to further down. Why would we want to?
Let's say this is very successful.
You really think it will be?
Yes, we do. We've got a lot of.
But it's never been done anywhere in the country.
And we
And
could
it's
be wrong,
inconsistent
too.
with
We could
every
be
traffic
wrong.
pattern.
You're thinking outside the box. I think it's fine, but
Yeah.
there are some issues.
Yeah, we have a unique situation. When the I-5 gets blocked, trucks back up from here to Anderson.
Right, and
Cottonwood.
And we're also letting, and the truck lane won't be happening at this point. We'll be directing trucks and traffic to detour on 299 when 5's closed. So that same sign that you might see trucks only will then be directing traffic to use the 299 detour.
So now the important thing, the 363 days a year, it's open to passenger cars, that left lane.
No, the trucks only lane, the far left lane will be that way 365 days a year unless there's a closure of I-5. Then we'll use it in those situations.
No, wait a minute, say that again slower.
365 days a year, it'll be a truck only lane, the far left lane.
So it won't help me going home to Shasta Lake then?
No, the idea, if you talk about a closure event.
No, I'm talking about when there are no closures.
Right.
Like today.
Like today. And right now, under Hilltop, we merged 3 lanes to 2, but there's going to be a 3rd lane on the left. Will that lane keep going as cars okay?
No, it'll be a truck only lane.
Why?
That's the why.
That's the purpose of the presentation.
Lane is for the truck only lane. The trucks that you have.
To get the funding.
That's how we get the funding.
Yeah, but once you get the funding, can't you change the sign?
There's $1 million question.
It is a pilot project.
You're gonna be gone in a few months, so what's the point?
And there is a chance. that
Vote for it, I don't care. Yeah.
The new guy might want to change it for us, so we'll wait.
So at this point, it will be a truck only lane.
Now
Both those new
legally,
lanes-
So it'll be a shoulder then for the rest of the year.
it's a truck lane.
Well, you're not gonna let trucks use it when there's no closure, are
Yeah,
you?
we are. No, it's a,
That's what
the
it's-
truck, it's a per,
They need to be,
it's a on,
got to be in the left instead of the right.
it's an ongoing,
Around, it's gonna be a truck lane.
Right, and the other two lanes are for cars and local trucks.
Now, trucks can use all three lanes,
Trucks can
so
use
they
all.
could be in 1, 2, or 3. No legal issue for
We
them.
we have the.
And
California-
honestly, from a standpoint of when you have a snow event and the road is closed, when they're taking up the right lane, that becomes the issue.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah. So,
And having them all in the left lane is much better.
and that's what we'll be directing.
but on the 4th of July, I see no advantage of them being in the left lane.
Other than the fact that they're pulling a hill and they're going slower than everybody else.
Eric?
Yeah, but if you put all the trucks over there, I think you're gonna open it up for more automobile traffic.
Come up, Kelly. This is Kelly Timmons, otherwise known as my replacement.
I'm gonna be the project manager on this after Eric retires. You know, one of the questions is, you know, the fact that, why do we put it in the left lane, the fast lane, right? And I think that's your concern.
No, I think it's a good idea for 3 days out of the year. It's the unrest.
Obviously, Eric mentioned, that we need to have this truck lane to be able to add the additional lane, right?
Right.
The problem is, at first we thought, well, should we put it in the number 3 lane, the outside lane? And that's where we typically see, truck climbing lanes, going up large grades and stuff. The problem with that is that we have a lot of intersections, ramps.
Yeah, blocks the exit.
And then you have all this additional traffic,
Right.
and then the cars can't get over. The idea though is that if we put them over there, and I don't think, do we have the statistics? I'm not sure if we do, the percentage of truck traffic. But as we go north, coming out of Reading, going towards Lake City, Shasta Lake, the percentage of trucks for overall goes way up.
Yeah.
And, it shows that there is a need for it, so.
Well, I think there's a definite need for it.
Go ahead.
There's a definite need, especially when there's a snow closure, but we have overhead signing that's variable. And I don't see why it can't be a truck lane sometimes and not sometimes, because we got the signing to control it.
You know what, I made that suggestion when we were going for the TCP funds for that we could use it for all that, sometimes a truck only.
Right.
And they didn't want that.
Well, that'd be okay to get the funding, but once you build the lane, then let's revisit it.
I think the number of accidents probably caused that change.
Yeah, but
Truck coming over and smashing it.
once you put that truck lane in, those trucks are gonna stay in that lane until they get out of the city.
Exactly.
And by putting it in the right-hand lane with all the,
Michael, next slide.
the conflict comes in.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to minimize.
It might work.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go to another slide that shows our supporters, and we have
So we've had support from the California Trucking Association. We also,
We'll get to that slide, but the California Trucking Association, they like that idea of getting through Reading and all that merging and weaving that happens near the ramps. Let that happen with the rest of the traffic. We're just gonna get through.
Okay, then I see one final solution. When you get to Shasta Dam Boulevard, there ought to be an up and over that takes them up and over and puts them back in the right lane.
It's a great idea. Yeah, we had that idea also to start it. And the only
They're
problem is
expensive.
each of those bridges probably takes about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Good idea.
Oh, that'll be phase 2.
the next grant. So, can we go back to the previous slide? So this is very innovative. It's the first in the nation we know about. Most of the truck only lanes are separate alignments. In Missouri, by the way, they have like a truck only lane near the median, and then kind of a greenway, and then they have a highway traffic. And then the trucks go through the highway traffic, then they get into the median. So it's kind of like this where they have to get through the traffic and then to their own areas. But ours will be the first in the nation to be done like this. So there's gonna be a lot of eyes upon us to see how this works. By the way, I think Fresno area is also thinking of doing the same thing we're doing. It's managed like a carpool lane. We talked about where it's gonna be, and we talked about how the CMS signs will redirect traffic during those events. And the southbound signs will mostly be sign panels. The northbound, you'll see the different types, but the southbound will mostly be sign panels. We talked about safety, the safety aspect. Now, we did talk about merging and weaving, getting into them. We're gonna be looking at that carefully, but at the same time, getting the trucks away from the interchanges, we should see a lot less problems with weaving and merging with the trucks. You know how they have to move over and let a car in. That's kind of hard to do sometimes if there's a lot of traffic. Noise, maybe with the trucks more towards the median, you have less noise. And like I said, if it's successful, we may even make that truck only lane go farther south, you know, so they can just motor through Shasta County and get on. Yeah.
So how are you going to advance the southbound lane as to
We
a
just keep
third
this,
lane?
we just keep the sign that says continue. Really, there'll be a sign that says truck only lane ends, and then it'll officially end. And if they're in that third lane after that, that's when they get the ticket, right?
The other thing too is with this lane, it was kind of cool, is they're supposed to be doing 55.
Well, I think we should change that too, but that's another issue.
What you're gonna say is all it takes is one truck and the rest are gonna have to go that way.
Yeah.
Well, aren't there only 3 states, California, Oregon, and Indiana, that limit trucks to 55? 3 states in the nation.
That's tied to our traffic accident picture and the volume of traffic that we have. That's why that's.
No, that is because
The one nice thing
politics
that
in
we don't
Sacramento.
like generally is trucks go slower than us, right? And you have to get around them.
Yeah.
And some people say traffic should go the same speed, so it's easier to weave in and out sometimes.
Yeah.
With this truck only lane, you won't be in their way, they won't be in your way, so we can all go our own speeds.
How
So
big a
Maybe
truck,
that's an advantage, right?
how big a truck do I have to buy to get into that lane?
Pickups with a
If you
flatbed?
Normally stop with the truck scales, that'll work.
Okay, so that's any pickup with a flatbed on it then?
No, it's the trucks that stop with the scales.
I think if you have a pickup truck with a flatbed on the back, you are required to stop.
We have a CHP person.
No.
It is listed as commercial, but I don't think it has to stop at a scale.
I think there's a weight limit, I'm not sure.
Well, I have a 5-ton truck. I have to go to that darn scale, so I have to go around it every time I go that way.
I'm not sure of that. I'll get back to you on that. Next slide.
Too much.
Here's the support we have so far. City of Shasta Lake. All right. North State Super Region. You can see all these. We're waiting. Oh, Chuck's not here.
He had to go out to.
We're expecting letters from these groups. In other sports, we do have CHP approval. They're going to be sending us a letter. FHWA is looking at this too.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
excited about it. And Caltrans headquarters also excited about it. Any other you want to add?
No, I think those are the ones that we have listed right now. Oh, Shasta County also, they provided previous letters, so we've asked for a revised one just because for consistency with the new scope and everything. So if we get those in, we will get those over and I'll be getting those to Aaron Cassis of their team for the applications.
And they're due by October 31st.
Yes.
What's the situation for, let's say, we do it all, everybody seems to support it, it seems like it makes some sense and could work, but let's say it doesn't. Have we ever had an experience where we did some traffic pattern that didn't work? This particular funding, could it be changed later? What's the process?
We are going to put in our application that this is a pilot project.
Pilot project,
Since-
okay.
Since it is new, and if it doesn't work, I don't think we'll give up on it. We'll see, we'll try to, whatever problem's coming up, maybe we need to sign better, maybe we're not communicating to people well. Maybe we need to give them farther distances to get queued up. I don't think we're gonna immediately turn it back to the way it was, but that could be an alternative if it totally fails. We're trying to do it in safe.
In other words, you'd put the trucks in the center lane then through town all the way like we do.
It'd just be like Roswell, where 3 general purpose lanes for everyone.
Don't you just love it when
Yeah.
you.
Once you get it built, we don't care.
When you get two trucks in the slow lane and one jumps out to pass the other truck and now you're stuck.
Yeah.
Because he's doing 58 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour to get around a 55-mile-an-hour truck.
They have a governor on their truck and.
I mean,
That'll eliminate this.
half the trucks like being in the fast lane anyway, so now they get to be in the fast lane, sort of.
Well, your fast lane will be next to theirs. They'll be the middle lane.
But Eric, they will be able to get out of the third lane to go 2 miles an hour around the truck in the third lane by using the middle lane, correct?
No.
Because you said it's bad.
Stay in it.
No, they have to.
You can't pass in that section.
They'll get ticketed if they're
They can,
through.
they can get out of the lane to use local interchanges, but if they're just using it to pass, hopefully the CHP will enforce that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a ticketable offense to be out there.
And I hope they do it.
Okay, so trucks must stay in left lane
Yes.
except to exit.
Next slide, please.
No. So I think trucks are allowed in all the lanes.
No.
No, somebody's not allowed.
In that one
Only
lane.
in the left way.
Yeah.
Could be in, the local trucks will have to get off, use the interchanges, they'll have to get on. So there could be situations where you'll see maybe trucks in all 3 lanes. But realistically, in terms of trucks, huge majority, just go on through.
All right.
You run that second,
Now they're not gonna bug you, they're gonna be over there and you drive and you're not gonna.
and you run that second lane going up into Mount Shasta. Okay, the second lane from the right, that's a ticket. And believe me, I wrote a bunch of them. Just sit in the center of it, wait for that truck to come up there. Wasn't passing anybody. He was just out there because it's a better road.
Yeah. Fewer potholes, huh?
Yeah, you're a real jerk, weren't you?
I think that'd be a given.
So the risks, like I
I like the word work.
there's no risks on this project, right? We haven't discussed anything. So the first risk is overages. As we all know, costs are going up. And usually with these funds, they say, here's what you get. If you need more, then that's up to you to figure out how to get them. Now, Sean and I have talked, Caltrans, we've come to agreement how to handle the overages, depending on the non-shop, and how we're gonna pay for them. The part that the state gives percentage-wise, I don't have those numbers on my top of my head, but we pay for, and the part that CERTA gets, we would pay for.
Correct, yeah. Roughly, it's a 67% state, 33% CERTA initially with the first scenario that you saw.
Right.
If we get the other funds, it's closer to a 55-45, so 45 CERTA, so.
And that actually happened with the Razzle project, so this came in higher, and we had to go back, get more money. And
I remember.
the state had to get it through their process, and then CERTA had to get it through their process. But who knows how much that'll be, right?
Right.
Because right now, we're using a 3.2% standard Caltrans escalation rate, and inflation's only 3.2%. Right?
Ah,
Wow.
No,
Where do you get your loans?
that's because of the Inflation Reduction Act. Is that correct?
There you go. So that's another issue that we'll have to deal with. Maybe as we're designing the project, when we know things are happening, we can do some cutbacks in the design, right? We're gonna work with
About
Sean.
8%, which you need.
I know. And we're gonna work with Sean and, do everything we can.
That's a
before
damn
we,
good credit score.
Need more money. And some of those other funding pots have ways to get extra money. So there'll be
Kelly and I will be working together a lot on that.
yeah, if it goes that way. Maybe it'll go the other way too. If a recession comes, prices go down. We saw that with Buckhorn. Recession came and it made a Buckhorn a project that we can actually build. Now another risk, the truck only lane is a new idea, right? What if we miss some things, right? It's a new idea, so maybe there's more costs. Environmental revalidation, it could be an EIR. We may need more time to schedule to do that environmental impact report.
But it's all in this median lane. There's not many artifacts there.
it's not about that. It's more about how it affects traffic in general.
So getting back to your comment earlier about truck only lane, is that also going to include no passing? So they absolutely know they can't pass? I mean, I understand they've got to get off where they got to get off. If they're into 44 or 299, whatever, they,
That could be a decision that the team could make, that we should truck only lane, trucks don't pass each other or something like that. I'm not sure. Like I said, if we see problems, maybe one idea is educating. What's nice about those signs is we can reach.
oh, it's a reader board, so you can
Right.
change that. Gotcha.
Yep. That's a good idea.
You could also stripe it with a solid yellow line.
That's another idea too.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's easy to do too.
That's cheap.
Public support. We've got a lot of support from those other agencies. You know, what's the public support? We're gonna be having public meetings and get public's input. Hopefully we can educate them on this, but still if. there's-
Yeah, because if it's anything like the roundabout, yeah.
Yeah, it's innovative and people
Right.
sometimes don't like innovative.
Right.
Right, but what I'm looking at it for is actually the truck only lane is the reason why we'll probably get the money,
Right.
right? Before, if you remember with Razzle, they had the first year and headquarters, CTC was looking for projects. Anyone got a project? And well, I need it next year, not this year. And everyone couldn't get a project ready. And District 2 said, we'll get one for you. In 6.5 months, we delivered the project. It was crazy. But we delivered it. They said, great, we got a project to show that we're spending the gas tax money. And guess what? We got a project. We're not in that situation now. We have to compete with the rest of the state for these funds. And I think this truck only lane is going to be the reason why we get the money, because it is new, it's innovative.
Yeah.
And if it's successful, you've probably seen a lot of.
And if it's not, we have 6 lanes the whole way.
In one sense.
Right.
What's the volume
Go back to normal.
Yeah.
of trucks in this area versus vehicle, passenger
It's
vehicles?
about 25% trucks in this area.
On the north end, yeah, once we get past Reading.
It's about 15% in Reading, then it moves to about 25% because you lose the
The
traffic.
worst case scenario for passenger vehicles, you're gonna improve traffic circulation 25%,
Well, some amount.
maybe.
Yeah, that's hard to know. We're part of that environmental revalidation is doing some more modeling, and Sean will be helping with this too.
A dedicated third lane for vehicles would have reduced the congestion by what percent?
That is something we won't know yet till if we go through the revalidation for the EIR
We can't
process.
just go by percent of vehicles because the trucks actually have influence on the interchanges. And, you know, one truck can slow vehicles way back, but now you have them all in one area. So now the vehicles can really go through the area a lot more smoothly. So how will that work with all the numbers? We don't have those yet. Okay.
Step in the right direction.
Good time to retire.
I think, is there any more questions? Next slide. Anyone else? We're looking for public support. And I'm glad I have Aaron and Kelly here with me because they've been very helpful and we're trying to get that application Monday, so. And I think I'm going on to the next slides.
Yes, you are.
Eric, I'd like to throw in one more thing. We had an earlier presentation by Jen talking about vehicle miles traveled and the integrated regional travel plan. Is there any way that you could get a 4th lane between Hilltop and 299? So there'd be an on-ramp at Hilltop? I mentioned it last time.
Not part of this project, but you're talking about something that's gonna happen there. And we're calling it the Palisades Trail. And actually, we're gonna have a multi-use path that's gonna go from Highway 44 to 299 and go under the Hilltop overcrossing. So actually, that first picture I showed, there's gonna be a bike lane. Right.
But it's only for bicycles, huh?
Well, and pedestrians. So that's something.
That still doesn't help reduce vehicle miles traveled for people that are in the mall area and want to go to the college. If there was an on-ramp there, it would reduce vehicle miles traveled.
From what I heard, and that question is asked a lot, there's not enough weave in that area to be able to do that, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And now that whole area is really grown up with development, to put in an interchange, it would take a lot of money to take all those houses and businesses out to put an interchange.
No, it wouldn't have to be an interchange, just be a one-way, just going northbound.
Okay. But there's some houses there. Can't answer that.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to say, I really appreciate your presentation. The first presentation that I saw you make was when we were doing the dedication of Razzle, which was, I thought that it was my first time I saw you make a presentation. And I just want to say thank you for your 35 years. What I learned a lot during that presentation was you were very animated. You described the process of how you condensed all that planning into 6 months, which was amazing to think about, because it was the CERTA board that approved some early money, seed money to create the planning, to get ahead, to be able to be more shovel ready. And then what you did was you scrunched and you did it, you explained it really well, because you could see how much I remembered about the conversation. And so it just, your energy and your dedication really showed through in that presentation. And thank you for your service.
Thank you. And by the way, that's not me that did it, it's Caltrans. I work with a great bunch of people that were able to deliver that project, and Kelly was actually on the team right away. Yeah.
Well, I am giving you credit for that presentation. I know it's a team effort, but it's just, you know, it's, I think people, we know that there's disruptions during the construction, and now people don't even hardly, well, maybe people remember, I mean, of the disruptions, I know, but it's a great project, and it came, I think it made a big improvement. And so I'm looking forward to something equally as incredible for this one.
Thank you. One thing I'd like to say is when you drive it, if you can't remember what the old project was like, it just feels normal.
That's the goal.
You did a great job. And that's what I found. It's like, what did this used to be like with 2 lanes? Hasn't it always been this way?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and and the great thing is we get to see you again. And so we're gonna move on to item 12, right?
Yep.
And receive a presentation from you on project, Caltrans Project Management SB 45 reports.
Michael, do you have those there?
Okay, so what you've done is you built me up to say I can give a good presentation, and this is really dry.
You can dance in the middle if you want, whatever.
What it means is I'll go through this real quick. So this is SB 45 gives local control over decisions like widening the freeway. And part of that is reports. So this is an SB 45 report, and this is the Razzle report. And this is the last one probably you'll see. And the good thing about this project is we're done with construction. We're on time and we're on budget. Here's the big numbers you want to see right here is we put aside 132 million to build this project. And right now we've expended about 126 million.
Wow.
And, you know, we do have the contingency. We didn't use all the contingency. And, you know, when I talked about going to construction real fast, we were thinking about building retaining walls there next to I-5 as you come down the big hill towards Anderson Creek. And we didn't need to do them. So we had some extra money set aside that we didn't need to use. So the big thing that we learned is we could put money together. We use STIP money, which comes from CERTA. We use SHOP money. We use TCP money. And this one, we use 71 million of TCP. Remember I said about 100 million, but some of the SHOP money was also SB1 money. And then we had STIP money, 23 million. And we also had some local funds too from Anderson and Shasta County and some other, I think there were 10 funds, I'm not fully sure, for the environmental phase. So as a community, we all worked together and got that project done. And now
And I still think Reading should have paid double what we paid because we shipped all the people to Reading. They get to shop there more. I'm just saying. Anyway, moving on.
You want the sales tax back.
Any more questions about Razzle? Okay, so let's move on to the same report for Fixed Line Cascade Gateway. And again, it's fun. You get to see all the different colors. You know, STIP funds, remember STIP funds did some for environmental. And remember, we talked about the 5 million of construction. And we have CRISA. What's CRISA, right? CRISA is the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. So we actually have COVID money as part of this, and CERTA was able to get that. And they had actually more money in STIP for PS&E, but remember, I talked about match, and they were able to put more money towards construction capital that we could use as match, gives us more, asking for less money always helps. And then we got the $500 that we needed for the design phase is the Carissa money. That was very innovative. And we
So
have.
many questions I want to ask, but we'll just keep going.
Sure, we have the shop money, we have the non-shop, we're hoping it's TCP. By the way, not just TCP, we're going for other money, right? We talked about the support funds, we talked about keeping project funding.
Yep.
We've also gone for raise funds, infra funds. Any more, Kelly?
Probably.
Yeah, and we're trying all the grants, and TCEP has been our best. And we've just, remember I said we hurried up and wait. We've only spent really 1.9 million on this project. That's in the design or environmental phase, and we're just starting the PS&E phase. That's why you can see that in terms of, at the time of this report, we had basically no money spent in in the design phase of this yet. Now it's starting, if I did this report today, you'd see a lot more. But at the time of this report, we had zero because we were still trying to finish out this 1.9 million. We want to spend our money wisely and use all in one bucket before we get to the next bucket. That way we don't have money left over that you could have used. And basically I gave the schedule. You know, the big one is when are you going to be done with your design? And that's in August of 24. And hopefully by then we'll have the money and we can start construction right after that. If not, we may have to wait a year.
Yeah.
Then we can start construction after that if we get that full cycle fund.
If you had 6 million left over from the Fix 5, can that go to the Cascade?
You keep trying, Greg.
We actually had a meeting to see what other things we could do in the Razzle project, other improvements, and we actually met with the city of Anderson, and we actually spent a few million of funds to do that. So it had to be consistent with the nature of the project. It's not free money. It was given towards a certain purpose. So that's the SB 45 report. This one. And let's bring up my replacement, Kelly, and I want Kelly to introduce himself and give you his experience here at Caltrans.
All right, thank you. I'm Kelly Timmons. I am a native of Reading. I was born and raised here and then left for quite a few years and came back about 5 or 6 years ago. I live up in Shingletown now. And I started out working in highway construction for Roy Ladd, whose office is just right down here across the street. And worked for him in 1992 through about 95 or so, and worked on Crystal Creek Bridge on 299 by French Gulch. After working for a construction company down in the Bay Area, I moved to Eureka for about 15 years. About 14 of those years have been with Caltrans, and then I moved over here the last 5 years or so. I've been with Caltrans 21 years, worked in design for about half of that time, worked in construction, worked in local assistance. The last 2.5 years, I've been a project manager. Most of my assignments have been in Trinity County. With Eric retiring, I'm going to be taking over Shasta County in the next couple months. I'm really happy. You know, I really do consider Shasta County as my home, and glad to be here and recognize the different needs in Shasta County. I just seen so many different changes. You know, people, Jen was just asking me before the meeting, you know, you've probably seen all these changes moving back, and I have. You know, I remember when I lived with my grandmother when I was really young, and I used to cross Hartnell at 4 years old, unattended, to go over to Winston for a holiday. You know, for those who may know, now you couldn't cross it even as an adult. Yeah, so you know, there's just a lot of changes in the transportation here in Shasta County, and I'm excited to be part of it now. So, thank you.
So you went to high school here?
I went to Enterprise. Yep, I'm a Hornet. My Mom was a Hornet, and I have 4 uncles and aunts who were Cubs, Anderson.
Hoorah.
You know,
We won't hold it again.
my grandparents moved here when the dam was being built, and they settled in Happy Valley. And so most of my mom and her family grew up in Happy Valley. So
What year Enterprise did you graduate?
88. So, did you go to Enterprise?
86.
86? Okay, so you probably knew Stacy Barnes. She's one of our engineers. She's a cheerleader.
Probably not.
We're not holding that against anybody.
That's all right. But yeah, my elementary schools was, down in the South Reading or South Park, Reading Park area. Went to Juniper, spent my junior high area time out in Old Shasta, so. And then I moved out to the Enterprise area for high school, so, yeah.
You didn't go to Nova?
I did go to Nova, yeah. I think most of us around here probably did.
Eric, did you tell him that when he comes back for his first official meeting, as you had to, it's a fruit and cheese plate or something that you bring?
Is that true?
Charcuterie board. Charcuterie board.
We'll see us we're target on it.
Yeah, right.
Thank you both.
Great job. Welcome aboard.
All right, move on to item number 14, suggestions from board members for relative to potential topics for the future board meeting. Anybody? Awesome. All right, and 15, we're adjourned.
So, Highway Patrol.